The first time Aram noticed it, his daughter was already laughing, and that laugh would soon unravel a truth he had buried so deep, he thought it would never see daylight again. It was a warm, ordinary afternoon, sunlight spilling across the small front yard of their modest home. The kind of day that didn't promise anything extraordinary, the kind of day where life quietly moves forward without asking questions. Aram stood near the gate, sorting through bills and advertisements, his mind heavy with routines and responsibilities. That was when his little girl, Meher, tugged at his shirt, her tiny fingers insistent, her giggle bubbling like a secret too sweet to hold in. She pointed toward the road, her eyes sparkling with mischief and innocence, and though her words were light and playful, they carried a weight he didn't yet understand. She noticed things adults ignored. She saw emotions that people tried to hide. And in that moment, her laughter wasn't just laughter, it was a doorway. If you believe that small moments can change lives, that kindness and second chances still matter in this world, take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, Kindness Verse. You never know whose story might touch your heart today. Aram followed her gaze, his eyes landing on the male lady walking away from their gate. Her name was Sana. She came every weekday, dressed in the same faded uniform, her step steady, her face calm. She always offered a polite smile when handing over letters, but Aram had never thought much of it. Life had trained him not to think too much about people passing through. But Meher had noticed. Children always do. Aram was a man shaped by loss. Years ago, his wife, Zoya, had passed away after a long illness, leaving behind a silence that no amount of time could fill. Since then, his world had shrunk to responsibilities, work, home, and raising Meher. Love, laughter, connection, those felt like luxuries he could no longer afford. He had built invisible walls around himself, convincing himself that this was strength, that this was survival. Days blended into each other. Mornings were rushed, evenings were quiet, and nights were heavy with thoughts he never voiced. He rarely looked people in the eye, rarely engaged beyond necessity. Even smiles felt like effort. But Meher was different. She carried sunlight in her spirit. She noticed the small things, the way the neighbor's cat waited at the same spot every day, the way clouds changed shapes, the way Sana lingered just a second longer than needed when handing over the mail. At first, Aram brushed it off. Children imagine things, he told himself. They see stories where there are none. But Meher didn't forget. Each day, her giggles returned, her curiosity growing. And slowly, something began to shift. He started noticing too. Sana's smile wasn't just polite. It was warm, genuine, almost hopeful. There was something in her eyes, a quiet kindness that didn't demand attention but offered comfort. She never rushed away immediately. She would glance at Meher, wave softly, and sometimes say something gentle that made the little girl beam. And then came the day that changed everything. It was brighter than usual, the sky painted in soft blues, the air carrying a hint of something new. Aram was standing outside again, waiting for a delivery he had almost forgotten about. Meher was beside him, unusually quiet this time, her eyes focused, her mind clearly working through something important. When Sana approached, her usual calm presence filling the space, Meher did something unexpected. Before Aram could react, she stepped forward and held out a small drawing, crayon lines uneven, colors spilling beyond boundaries, but filled with heart. It was a picture of three people standing under a bright sun, holding hands. One of them had a bag slung over their shoulder. Aram felt his chest tighten. Meher didn't say anything this time. She simply smiled, her eyes moving between him and Sana, as if she had connected a truth that neither adult had the courage to acknowledge. Sana froze for a moment, her expression softening in a way Aram had never seen before. There was surprise there, yes, but also something deeper, something like recognition, like a door quietly opening. Aram suddenly became aware of how long it had been since someone had looked at him not with pity, not with indifference, but with something human. That evening, after Meher had fallen asleep, Aram sat alone, the drawing in his hands. The house felt different, as if the walls themselves were listening. He realized something he had been avoiding for years. He hadn't just lost his wife, he had lost himself. Grief had become his identity. Isolation had become his comfort. And in trying to protect his heart, he had unknowingly closed it off completely. But Meher hadn't let that happen. Children have a way of healing without even knowing it. They don't understand fear the way adults do. They don't carry the same weight of past pain. They simply see what is, and sometimes, what could be. The next day, Aram did something small but significant. When Sana arrived, he didn't just take the mail. He looked up. He met her eyes. And for the first time in years, he smiled, not out of politeness, but out of something real. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a grand gesture. But it was enough. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, the silence began to break. Small conversations replaced quiet exchanges. Laughter, once absent, began to return in gentle waves. Meher's giggles filled the yard more often, her drawings becoming brighter, her world expanding. Aram started to feel something he thought was gone forever: hope. Life didn't magically become perfect. There were still hard days, still moments when the past felt too heavy. But now, there was also light. There was connection. There was the possibility of something new. And it all began with a child's simple observation, a giggle, and a drawing that spoke louder than words. As the sun set one evening, casting golden hues across the sky, Aram stood in the same spot where everything had started. Meher was playing nearby, her laughter echoing through the air, while Sana waved goodbye at the gate, her smile as warm as ever. This time, Aram didn't just notice it. He understood it. Sometimes, healing doesn't come from grand moments. Sometimes, it comes from the smallest gestures, the ones we almost overlook. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of the power of kindness and second chances, take a moment to like, share, and comment. Your support helps stories like these reach people who need them the most.